everybody, it's Kristin, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Connect with KB. It is so great to have you tuning in with us as we talk about business and education and leadership and all the wonderful things that connect us to each other. My guest today has created a product that's going to be a fan favorite as we head into the holidays and the cold Michigan winter. It's a ready-to-brew, one-shot hard coffee or cider cocktail that comes in the form of a pod. And here to talk about it from Cask Kettle is Lucinda Wright. Lucinda, so great to have you with me. I'm excited about this conversation.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Let's first start with the Lucinda Wright story.
Oh.
I always like to have my podcast listeners hear kind of your journey and how you got to this place this morning, joining me on the Connect with KB podcast. So start with your journey.
Well, I turned 59 last summer, so it's a fairly long journey, but I grew up and was born in Rives Junction, Michigan. So for the listeners out there, this is your Michigan trivia for like 500, if you know where that is. So Rives Junction, and I went to Jackson Community College first, so a shout out to all of my fellow community college attendees, transferred to Michigan State, and then started my career with Whirlpool Corporation in supply chain. Fabulous company, great start to a career, but I always wanted to be in brand marketing. And so I left Whirlpool to go back to Michigan State to get my full-time MBA to make the change over to brand marketing. And I was blessed that the Kellogg Company in Battle Creek, Michigan gave me that opportunity. And I had a wonderful decade there working on the startup of Nutri-Grain bars, Raisin Bran, Corn Flakes, upfront innovation, the Morningstar Farms business. So I moved from an MA to a VP in about 7 years, and I spent about 10 years at Kellogg. Then I left, and I spent some time at Meijer in Grand Rapids. They wanted to start up their foods innovation, product development function. So anything with the name Meijer on it, a Meijer branded food, that's called own brand. And so I came in to set up the global sourcing around the world. I had responsibility for every category across the footprint of the store. Phenomenal experience for me, traveled the world. And then after 5 or so years there, I moved into consulting, where I helped people realize their dreams. If they had an idea for a new food and beverage at JPG Resources, we helped them from concept all the way through launch to management, growing young brands and companies in Michigan and across the country. And this idea for Cask Kettle was born out of that consultancy, that innovation. We were in a budget meeting, so for those of you who've been in budget meetings now, not fun.
Right.
Nothing fun about it. And this was a cranky meeting, and the supply chain had turned to me and said, hey, Luce, do you want some more coffee? And I said, not unless it has some alcohol in it, because that would make this meeting a lot better. Well, when you work with people who are innovative, that cut the tension. Everyone started riffing off of how we could do that. We all love coffee. We love cocktails, wine, all of that is all good with us. So that was the birth of the idea.
I love that. And, that's really kind of where the best ideas come from. I mean, you were really being just a little sarcastic,
Yes.
But all of a sudden, people start looking at each other like, you know what, that's a really good idea. And the innovation in entrepreneurship is always about a need. There has to be a need, and you found one. Let's talk a little bit about the development of not only the concept, but how it actually works. Where are you? How are you marketing? What kind of feedback are you getting? How do you, I think you have a partnership with Temperance Distillery.
We do.
So just go into that whole story too.
Well, what's interesting is I spent my whole career in the non-alcohol segment of food and beverage. And so I thought, I know startup is difficult. We've worked with companies. I've seen it. I've run businesses. But I have to say, when you come into a brand new category and we're creating a new segment within the category. So in spirits, hot doesn't exist. It's all cold and ambient. Mm-hmm. And so we're bringing something that's brand new into a category by introducing hot. And what I learned in my Kellogg days is there's a big difference in the eating experience when you're eating an Eggo waffle than a cold, bowl of cereal. The nutrient value is the same, but the experience is different. And so when you sign up for coming in with disruptive innovation, you have to accept the responsibility that educating consumers on what you are is a huge responsibility. So that's what we spend a lot of marketing time and energy on, is telling people, okay, what's in the pod? How do you make it? Yes, it does just fit into any Keurig style machine. I have to say that like over and over. Yes, it's liquid in the pod. This is liquid distilled spirits, liquid concentrated coffee and natural flavors. It's not powdered. And so if you don't have a Keurig, no big deal. You just peel the top off, add it to warm, water, and, go. So those educational responsibilities are where we spend most of our marketing time.
Well, and you do, I had an opportunity to look at your website. I mean, obviously you have a major message about drinking responsibly.
Yes, of course.
But also, let's talk a little bit about the different ounces. So if you have a different size cup with the Keurig, too, you're getting a little different alcohol content.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like anyone who uses a Keurig, you select a cup size. And all that does is decide how much water is going into your mug. And so if you like a bolder, richer coffee and a stronger taste, you put less water in. Same with us. This is not like Big Mug of Joe. This is a coffee cocktail. That's really what it is. And so we highly suggest you start with, 6 ounces or less. You can always add more. Frankly, I always add cream, and you should drink it like you drink your coffee. If you are a black coffee drinker, then I expect that you'll do that here. If you like cream, creamer's fabulous in our drinks. It makes it even more fabulous than it already is. And real quickly, you touched on the drink responsibly. The primary drinking occasion for us is at home. It is at home. We made this so that people could kick back, relax. The coffees are all decaf. They're meant to let the day go, unwind at home. It's warm, so you're taking your time, you're enjoying it. And furthermore, my husband is a superintendent of schools. We believe very strongly in responsible drinking. So yeah, that's how you drink it. I had the biggest compliment. I had a call. My number is the 800 number. So you get me. You get the CEO if you call the number on our website. And it was a gentleman in another state, and he said, "I just want you to know I love your products. I have 5 kids. When they go down to bed at night, my wife and I reconnect. We put our feet up. She likes your hot blonde. I dig your Irish coffee, and we just relax and reconnect. And I want you to know how much I appreciate that."
Well, I told you earlier that I had an opportunity to go to the Knapp's Crossing Meyer over in Grand Rapids. I bought the hot blonde and tried it, loved it, and I just think that really for you to step into this, and I so admire it. I love women entrepreneurs, and I want to thank my friend Tiffany Dowling for introducing us, because she's an awesome entrepreneur too. But when you started kind of going down this road, did you look at yourself as an innovator or a little disruptor of the entire segment of this, or both?
What's interesting is I guess I'm a reluctant or a late blooming entrepreneur, because as I said, I'm at what most people would think the end of my career, and several of the founders on this business are. So we, I guess I've been a maverick my whole career. I gave you my background. So I've done a few things. I've done a few risky things. Every time I've made a change on paper, it looks like my husband and I are going to starve to death for me to do something new. And this is really no different than that. So I don't think about it consciously as being disruptive. I think it's the nature of people who start businesses. You probably are inherently disruptive, so to speak.
I think inherently bold. Inherently people who say, let's try this next thing. And I think it's such a great lesson for young women about what's the worst thing that could happen? Right. And to say that over and over again. And I work with a Michigan Chamber and their Michigan Athena program. And I tell you what, we talk about this all the time about, being a risk taker and trying. And what are some of the challenges that have come along with this? If you've gone into this space, and obviously, you've talked a little bit about being at Meyer and Kellogg and probably using other people's money. Yeah. But this part of it is different for you.
It's 100% different. So you're right. I'm used to running businesses, and people have entrusted me in running businesses in large companies. But when you work in somebody else's company, there's a safety net there. There is. I always took it, I felt a great deal of responsibility for people's job security and the growth of the business and shareholders and all of that. But when it's you, your money, and or family and friends have given you their hard-earned money and they're entrusting that to you, that's a huge stewardship. And so I've always been serious when I run a business. Now I guess I'm super serious.
Right.
And now we're also looking for additional investors. And that's been my growth as a CEO. What I've learned is even at 59, even doing some of the super cool things I've done over my career, you always have to continue to learn. It's just never done. There are just parts of business that you don't know enough about and you need to learn more about in order to do a good job. So it's a never-ending learning experience. Back to the risk side, I'm with you. Every time we've taken a risk, my world has gotten broader, the opportunities have been bigger, the experiences have been, even richer. So I've been blessed every time I took a chance and pushed out into new territories. And I would certainly encourage those younger in their careers to do that. Now, what's interesting to me is the younger generation, men and women, super entrepreneurial.
Right.
Michigan State, the Burgess Institute. I'm very impressed with the younger generation and the spirit of entrepreneurialism that they have.
Do you think that has to do with technology?
Tech has certainly driven that. As a matter of fact, a lot of innovation has been tech-based, and it's left food and beverage sort of in the dust a little bit. It's very hard to raise money, for instance, in food and beverage. Most money goes into tech or medical, life sciences, that sort of thing, or hardcore manufacturing. Even in the state of Michigan, very difficult to raise any money if you're a food and beverage company. So I take my mentorship and or offering to help other food and beverage companies really serious, because it's especially difficult if you're a food and beverage company.
Let's talk about the manufacturing as well as the packaging. Here we've got to hold that right up for a moment. There we go. That's what it looks like, folks. That's what you're going to be looking for in the stores. And let's talk about the manufacturing and the packaging and where it's available.
Yeah, so Temperance Distilling in Temperance, Michigan, I'll let you absorb the irony of the temperance movement of prohibition and our distillery being there, have been a fabulous collaborator with us. They're super innovative, they're flexible, they're incredibly supportive of us, and so that's been a great partnership. And so we produce in Michigan, we're headquartered in Michigan. I've grown up in Michigan, so we're very Michigan centric. And the packaging was designed by a firm out of Walnut Grove, California. And when I worked at JPG, we use them as a consultancy, packaging consultancy on beverage goods, and they have experience in spirits. So we knew that the K-Pods themselves, for the marketing geeks out there, were going to cue coffee. And so it was important strategically from a packaging standpoint was to cue spirits, because that's what we are. We're high-proof spirits. And so you see it go vertical. Most K-Cups that you would buy out there are in these square packages, very cute. This is vertical to replicate a bottle. There are 5 pods in there, so it's really reasonable. Happy hour pricing, we try to make it very trial pricing. So the packaging design firm was very innovative, super excited about the work. That's been the fun thing for me, is that the reaction we get from partners and from consumers typically is like, wow, why didn't I think of this? Why has no one done this? How fun is this? I mean, so it's not like it's not like this is not a fun category, because it is, and we have fun with it.
Well, as people do that, I mean, the demographic too, young people, older people, I mean, and let's talk a little bit about the website and the recipes too, because I think there's some creativity that goes along with that.
Yeah, really quick on the demographics. Coming out of JPG and frankly my whole career, I feel very strongly for those people who have ideas and want to start businesses, that they quantitatively test it with consumers, because I think it's important to pursue your passion. It should be meaningful to you, but you do have to make sure other people really feel the same way. resume
Sure.
before you do this. So we did that on this business. But yes, back to the recipe. So again, my Kellogg's years come into fore here, and that is you not only eat cereal, but you do other things with it, like make Rice Krispie treats or make breadings out of things. So my mind goes right to we're a concentrate, which is very similar to vanilla or anything else. So I had family and friends who were caterers. I gave them, samples, and I said, go have fun, create, and use this as an ingredient in other recipes. And so what they did is they took their favorite recipes and they made them adult. So on our website, you're going to see frosting recipes made with this Irish coffee. I know it's probably not believable coming from me, but fabulous tasting. We have dressings, vinaigrettes that are made with our cider. Phenomenal. We have tiramisu made with our hot blonde. Delicious. Glazes made with just all kinds of recipes that are in foods that you might not even think about. And obviously then we have recipes too with the beverages themselves, affogatos, milkshakes, tons of stuff. So if you're creative as a brew tender, bartender, cook, chef, there's lots of ways to be creative with our brews.
How about that next thing? What does that look like? You must be thinking about or getting suggestions from people on different flavors and ideas and thoughts. Yep. How do you kind of get your arms around that and decide what it's going to be?
So we've already consumer validated Jamaican coffee, which would get us into rum, and bring in coconut and all those wonderful tropical flavors. We've validated a bourbon toddy, which would get us into black tea. We haven't toyed around yet with chocolates. We have a pear cider. But right now, just businesswoman to businesswoman here, we have 5 now. And so we're in Irish whiskey. We have several vodkas. We have a tequila. We have a cider. We have different flavors. And when you're our size, 5 is a lot. Mm-hmm. And so we do have ideas that get us into different distilled spirits or even different platforms like tea or, multi-serve. Or, it's really not hard on this business to innovate broadly. Our mint patty, for instance, was just supposed to be a Holiday Inn out last year, but you wouldn't believe how many people are mint patty lovers.
For sure.
And so it's stuck. It just, instead of being here and gone, it's stuck. And now we're rolling out into Kroger and Meijer, Walmart. We're in Total Wine. So we're on a roll right now.
And is that throughout the entire country? It's not just the warm weather states, or
No.
I shouldn't say it like that. Are you down in the warm weather states?
Yeah, what's so interesting to me is in the spirits world, because again, hot is not known. Coffee they think is niche, which is so funny because coffee is huge globally, other than water or tea. Everyone drinks hot coffee. But hot coffee is consumed 12 months of the year. Yep. The only month that it under indexes is July, and mostly because people are out of home. And it actually indexes even higher in warm weather states like Texas or Florida or California. So, and what I always say to people is think about where a Starbucks is across the country. There's one in every corner, in every little nook and cranny. And up until recently, 100% of Starbucks menu was hot. They've expanded and grown in cold because they saturated hot. So wouldn't you like a little piece of Starbucks?
Absolutely. Well, how about that opportunity to take it to the next level and diversify a little bit and maybe have a storefront or an opportunity to grow like that?
Yeah, so when you work in an innovation company or you're in a startup, I just find it not hard at all to think about how to expand and grow, and that's certainly one. Some storefronts are popping up in other parts of the country that do specifically focus on hot cocktails. That's true. So that's growing out there in the brick and mortar side. We have had interest internationally, people interested in our business. So yeah, we have an online presence now. We just found that partner last March. That's new for us, relatively new. But yeah, the world is just our oyster. And I hope that my fellow startups out there and people who run businesses also feel like their future is bright.
Absolutely. Well, I got to tell you, Lucinda, it's so refreshing for me to have an opportunity to talk to you. For you to do this in your career, and all of it has led up to this point, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely.
I want you to share, we're going to sign off, but give me the website so that people can get on and they can take a look.
It's caskandkettleusa.com. So CASK, caskandkettleusa.com.
God, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
My guest today, Lucinda Wright from Cask Kettle. I also want to thank my supporting sponsors, Marketing Resource Group, Governmental Consultant Services, Downing Industries, the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, AF Group, AT&T, and the Fraser Law Firm. You can listen to all my podcasts at connectwithkb.com. Until we connect again, go live your best life. I'm your host, Kristin Belzer.